I am ready to go. So I have more adventure started, and this is where we segue to the next video. So there's the Amtrak train I came in on. This San Jose station is multimodal. All trains and VTA light rail misdirection. So there's a number of different train systems in the San Francisco Bay Area, and today I'm going to hit a lot of them. Let's see how many I can take. And I have a route planned, and let's see if my route planning works in reality. First side, that's Caltrain, which I'll be taking later, but I'm starting with the light rail this way. And I think I scan when I get on. At least I'm hoping that's the case. So that was not the case, and even though I could probably figure it out, I wouldn't get too much trouble. I don't want to end up with like some $250 fine because I'm a dumb tourist. And I did notice right here, this is the scanning machine. So this is one of those things where, you know, if you're familiar with the system, no, this isn't rocket science, but when you're a confused traveler who was in the Hyborian North snowfields a couple hours ago, it's a little bit confusing. But I got here early, so I'll just take the next one. I'm also going to make a short right now. So here we have a flat screen display, but it's blank, not working. And I was hoping to have at least a dot matrix reader board. So one thing about the VTA light rail, this is the tech capital of the world, and we don't have a dot matrix reader board. So it's interesting that the technological prowess of this area isn't really reflected a lot in the transit system, at least in that small way. Maybe I'm just grumpy, maybe I need to eat. Another thing to mention, right there we have the Amtrak California Capital Corridor service. So here we have long distance Amtrak, we have Amtrak California, and then we have Caltrain, and we have the VTA. So there's 4 different train systems, all with different service models and jurisdictional concerns, from federal to county transportation, more or less county transportation district. So technically, logistically, there's a lot going on here, which I don't know the entire history of. I don't know if anybody knows the history, but it is certainly interesting, you know, to have so many overlapping types of transit. And that's kind of a spoiler, because that's like actually my entire thesis here. But I want to also see it as well as think about it. And I will as soon as this VTA train comes. Here we are, and from the outside you can see it's pretty small. Like in Portland, this would be closer to the streetcar than to the MAX. And that was kind of an interesting decision, why we ended up with this like smaller streetcar service, even though San Jose is a pretty big city. It's the 10th largest city in the US. I'm going to stop talking because I have a train to get on. So this train's about to enter downtown San Jose. It's a pretty slow service. A lot of stops. Like I said, almost more of a streetcar model than what I think of as a light rail model. And right now you probably can't see anything, but I took this for a reason. I took the scenic route, such as it is.
Stop requested. Syncing.
As we can see, hopefully through these windows, which are kind of streaky, this light rail doesn't have its own right-of-way, so it's kind of getting slow because it's moving with traffic, and traffic is moving kind of slowly. And then also sometimes it's just stopping. I don't know if that's because it's ahead of schedule or if we're getting delayed for some reason, but not the most fun. So right now also a lot of this is typically like office park looking, and as important as San Jose is in the world, it looks a lot like Salem, Oregon or something, at least here. There, for example, is LG, one of many important tech companies that this line passes by. So Canon, important company, right across from a big old field of mustard. This is Samsung of the United States. Also, this train line has switched to going to the west, and it's now duplexed with the Orange Line. And in a couple blocks, I will get off of this line and board an Orange Line train. And Samsung likes basketball, apparently. So this is Old Ironsides. Sounds like the nickname of a one-eyed pirate admiral. And the Green Line stops here. And for the past couple stops, the Green Line has been coexisting with the Orange Line. And so basically I just stop here and wait about 10 or 15 minutes for an Orange Line that will continue to Mountain View. And you know, when I was on the train, I was photographing through the windows. So this is kind of like a combination between a streetcar and a light rail. You can see the size of it. And it is pretty slow. So the route that I just took, you know, took me about 40 minutes, I think. And now I'll be waiting another 15 minutes and then take another 20 minutes. So it'll be like about an hour and a half from Jose-Diridon Station to Mountain View. So not the most efficient, but I wanted to look at it. And okay, the bullet point executive summary is it is somewhat unusual that, you know, this gigantic tech capital has kind of like an obsolete and not very efficient train. So that has to do, I think, with the fact that this city grew a lot after the train was planned, but also might have to do with something that, like, even though in the Bay Area we might have a lot of environmental awareness, we also have a lot of car culture here. You can see a lot of these highways are pretty big, not particularly dense. So I think that's why we end up with this train system that's like kind of an inefficient trolley. I like it. I mean, it's good enough, but it's not really stellar. There's an Orange Line coming in, going to the east. Anyway, so I'm just going to wait for my Orange Line. And also, it's a sunny day. It's a nice day, so I'm pretty happy. It's a lot more sunny and warm than it was in Oregon. I'm not actually sure here whether I have to tag my card again, or whether the fare is good for a certain amount of hours. Maybe I should check the pamphlet. Hopefully I will not get in trouble. Most systems I know where you tag a card, it's good for a certain amount of time. Here's my Orange Line coming in. This is another thing you might not think about when you think about Silicon Valley, is a mobile home park, a quite extensive one too. This is one of many Google buildings, or Alphabet buildings now. I'm not actually any type of expert, but they have a lot of different campuses and then outposts around the area. And I don't know where the main one is, somewhere in there. But yeah, Google is one of many tech companies that is prominent here. There's Lockheed Martin. The station is actually called Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin has a facility here. So along with computer tech, we also have aerospace tech here. NASA has a center here too, somewhere along this line. So this is the NASA facility. Don't know exactly what it is, but you can see there's some type of hangar over there. Also, on a transit note, the train's actually working like a real light rail now, going pretty fast, which hasn't been the case in a lot of places. And here, seemingly inside of the NASA facility, is a gravel parking lot full of RVs. I don't know. Another interesting thing, that's something I don't see on most light rail systems, is you do actually push to request a stop. So that's more like a bus than a light rail. So I just got off the orange line here. Here is the Mountain View station. Caltrain boards on the other side. And I could have taken this, I think it takes 20 minutes to get from here. Took an hour and a half, but like I said, I wanted to see more of what the city was like. And now I'm gonna go see what is going on in Mountain View. There's this Caltrain coming in, going to the south. Quite a few cars on that one too. Anyway, I'm not ready to board just yet, but I'm going to stay pretty close to the transit center. But I'm going to go this way. So we have this really nice outdoor dining area. The only thing is that this is for people with more money and more time than I have. I was looking for a slice of pizza. This is more, the one pizza restaurant had like a Michelin star rating. So I think I will end up passing this by, even though, I mean, this is all really lovely and nice. I don't think I can really appreciate it right now. I'm back. I took a walk around downtown. It's nice. Downtown Mountain View looks like a nice place. I don't really have the time and the energy right now to appreciate it. So I figured it might be easier just to get on a train and eat some of my mini packaged snacks. And so now I'm looking, I assume this is where, over here is where Caltrain boards. But I guess I will find out. That's kind of part of being a traveler. Yes, here we have Caltrain boarding area. I'm going to guess that's where Caltrain boards. And I'm going to guess that northward boards over here. So this is another important part of why I'm leaving now, if that's not artifacted. So the trains here going northward leave at 1 minute past the hour and 15 minutes past the hour, which is kind of an unusual schedule because you either have to wait 15 minutes or 45 minutes. There's always a reason for things like that, but that was if I had spent a little bit more time in Mountain View, I might have to wait another 45 minutes. So instead, I'm just getting on the train here. And as I understand it, Caltrain is a heavy rail, which means I can plug in my electronics and I can use a restroom. Unlike the Capital Corridor, I don't believe it has food though. I guess I will find out these things. So I have some good news, some bad news, and some more good news. Good news is they do have restrooms. Pretty basic, but you know, I've had worse. Not my best, not my worst one tonight. Bad news is I cannot find any outlets on this train. So maybe that's other trains, maybe I'm in the wrong car. Luckily I still have 2 bars on this video camera. And the good news is this train is really going fast, especially it's a contrast over the VTA. So I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the ride. This section of the trip covers the most distance but takes some of the least time. I think it's only 20 minutes until I get to Millbrae. There's one over there. So I'm gonna cross. So there's this double deck, but the other side of the deck is separated by this chasm, so I have to walk down to get over there. I wasn't looking closely enough. There's one right underneath my seat. This is Palo Alto, very important city, like many of these cities. Hard to tell because, you know, especially I'm new to the area. I'm kind of tired right now going by in a train. So these are all, you know, different communities I'm seeing every 5 minutes. Kind of the character of the community changes, but to me it kind of all blurs together right now. It's been a long day. This is Menlo Park. One thing to say in passing, it might not be clear through the windows, all of these stations are in good repair and really clean and attractive that I've seen on the Caltrain line so far, so that's something to consider. This is Redwood City. This looks like a nice place. And a lot of these places are new to me, not just this is the first time I visited them, which it is, but really I guess in my mind they're all just a string of names, you know, as much as I knew about them. So it's interesting to see there's so much here. two things about the Caltrain route. First is it's pretty high up, so in places, so you get good views like this. And also, a lot of times we're going through city centers or at least, you know, somewhat attractive retail districts. Oh, well, also, okay, to be fair, sometimes stuff like this. As opposed to what I was going across the East Bay in the Coast Starlight and presumably on the Capitol Corridor. A lot of times that's like really scroungy looking warehouse districts and stuff. And just as I say this, what do we see? We see kind of scroungy looking warehouse districts. We have like a gravel lot there. So I guess I could say the Bay Area is a land of contrasts. I will show more examples of that, you know, the city centers coming up. But yeah, I like this. This is a really relaxing ride. This is a nice residential neighborhood. This is a couple minutes after my last message. Interesting that a lot of this is pretty low density for the Bay Area. I mean, it would be high density in a lot of cities, but, you know, a lot of single family homes and stuff. And now into another type of office park neighborhood. It's kind of hard for me to know what is what, because you have residential and industrial and research all next to each other. And then you just have all this heavy equipment too. Well, I hope I am demonstrating something. I don't know what, but I hope I'm demonstrating something. There's SurveyMonkey headquarters. I don't know how, you know, accurate this is, but I have noticed that, like, you know, when you're right in Mountain View, which is kind of the center of the center right now, even more than San Jose, there's where you have like Google and Facebook and Apple. And then like the poorer tech cities, you have to make do with things like SurveyMonkey. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's been my impression that, like, of course the tech industry is going to be big everywhere along here, but like, you know, as you get further out, further from the epicenter, then you're going to have, like, you know, less, not the most massive companies. We're stopped here. This is Hillsdale, by the way. This is Hayward Park, and I don't really know what that means. One thing to consider is this is a commuter rail. This is a heavy commuter rail. But sometimes the stop frequencies have been like a mile from each other, and like about the equivalent to like some sections of the light rail in Portland. So one of the purposes of this entire video is like looking at what's the difference between a trolley or light rail, what's the difference between a metro or subway, what's the difference in commuter rail, corridor rail. You know, and there's always pros and cons of modeling a service each way, and most services you really can't clearly separate them. This should be a commuter heavy rail, but like right here, it feels almost more like this is a metro or a light rail as far as the stop spacing. Maybe I'm a little bit misled about that, but that's kind of my impression. And now we're taking off. Yeah, so it does kind of make the trip shorter because, you know, we have to stop and then we have to get back up to speed. It's still going pretty briskly, but it does make it slower than, like, you know, when I was on the Coast Starlight, and it's just like Martinez, Emeryville, Oakland, San Jose. The next step is Millbrae, and that's where I'm going to be jumping off, hopping off the train and getting on to the BART. And so I have to gather all my things together because I'm on the second floor. Well, it was a pleasant ride, and I learned a thing or two. And there's still a lot, like, I'm seeing all these buildings and stuff, and I'm curious what they are, but I can't learn it all in one trip. So now my focus is on deboarding, and I might check out Millbrae a little bit, see what's there. And thanks to Caltrain, my video camera did recharge, so I should be good for another couple hours. Caltrain cars, every other car is a car with places to have bicycles, and it's real easy. Just hop on, put your bicycle in, and then take it off when you get off. So that's nice. It makes it really easy for exploring places through train and bicycle. So this is interesting. When I boarded, it took about $10, $9.95 off my account. And I thought that was too much, but apparently what you do is you use the contactless card, the Clipper card, and it will then refund some of that money, because I only went one fare zone, so it should be less than $10, so I'll get the money put back on my account. I'll explain also about the Clipper card in a little bit when I have time. A few years ago, well, that was also a few years ago, and a few years before that. That's been going on for a while. A few years ago, I actually posted a Instagram post of this Millbrae Transit Center, and it kept on getting likes from all over. I guess people were searching for it. So hopefully this video shows Millbrae Transit Center will also be popular. So this is Millbrae. A little bit more my speed than Mountain View. I got off basically just because I wanted to stretch my legs. It's 1 p.m. now, and I was in San Jose at 10 a.m. So that's about 3 hours of, riding and stuff. So I'm going to take a short break here. Also, like I said, with Caltrain, you have that weird frequencies where you might have to wait for 45 minutes. When I get on the BART, there is very little latency. They come at regular times. So I feel more comfortable waiting here for the BART after I walk around. So I'm just going to do a quick walk around Millbrae. Then I'm going to get back to the BART and continue on, because I bet downtown San Francisco is more interesting than this. This is Millbrae. I've been through Millbrae many times because it's the closest BART stop to the airport, but it's always just been like I stayed in a hotel there. So even though this is just 2 blocks away, I've never been along this road and seen downtown Millbrae such as it is. Nice place to take a little walk, and I will just be walking around and getting back to the trains. It's a Taco Bell. I'm still in Millbrae, going back to the transit center. There's a Taco Bell, and I'm almost tempted to go in. One thing about traveling like this is I've kind of been in a cycle between being hungry, thirsty, and needing to go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna skip by that because I still have a bagel in my bag, some candy bars, and I want to get back to the train riding. So we're approaching the Millbrae station. Gonna get on a BART going north. So, some of this is kind of silly. Like I said, I could have just taken Caltrain, been in San Francisco about 2 hours ago. But one of the things I'm looking at, is in the big picture, communities determine how they exist, what they look like, how they want the world to be, how they want their environment to be. And communities can do that through, government or social action, or they can do it through the free market. But one way or another, communities shape what reality is, more or less. And so that's the big picture. And then you get into the small details, which is you have all these jurisdictional concerns. I'll just walk to this sidewalk. You have all these jurisdictional concerns, and you have planning and logistics. And that's why you end up with a place like Millbrae, which is a transit center where a state agency, Caltrain, interacts with a local agency, and then you have the San Mateo Transit, so you have county transit. So, you start with this gigantic picture. How do we control our environment? And then you end up in these jurisdictional details of how do we, implement that, and sometimes the implementation doesn't make sense. Really nice building though. That might be my thumbnail. So that's really what this trip is about, and hopefully, people won't get bogged down in the details and of hearing me complain and whine, and we'll look at it as a really interesting case study of how do communities organize themselves. That's really what we're talking about here. And I will stop looking at the big picture because I need to look at the small picture of getting on that BART.
Three-door San Francisco-Oakland Ferry now.
So this is the BART going north. I can hear it coming. BART is usually underground, but in certain places it's underground. Here, though, it's above ground. As far as I know, though, every part of BART is secured. Has its own right-of-way, so it's a true metro system. I'm a bit confused because this It's coming from the north, but it's going back to the north, I think. I will figure this out. It also has 10 cars, which is a lot of cars. They're kind of small cars, though. They're very squat compared to the Caltrain. This is really obvious. The BART is a lot bigger and a lot faster than the VTA. So here's a little section. We're going through a mini tunnel. Last time it only lasted like at most a minute. So this isn't really a subway. This is just a train going through a tunnel, whatever the difference is. So actually it's gone a little bit longer, but there hasn't been a stop. I think that's the difference between like a subway and a train going through the tunnel, whether it actually stops underground. Well, we're stopping. Let's see if we stop underground, because that will make it, at this point, a subway. I know that because I've ridden it before, I know that like when we get close to Daly City and stuff, that's all above ground. And actually a little bit elevated with a good view. Well, okay, nope, okay, so here we have a stop, and the stop looks like it is recessed, but it doesn't look like it's totally below ground. We are moving fast. So now we're braking. Next stop, South San Francisco. Of San Mateo County, and the next station is actually in San Francisco proper. I'm getting off there. Also got more busy once we're closer to the city. Nicer view too. This is Balboa Park, and here I am going to board the MUNI, is the plan. Line J. Let's see how that works. And that's going to be more of a light rail, hopefully not quite as light as the VTA, but much lighter than the BART, and much lighter than the Caltrain. Nice station. I'm looking for the J line here. So this is one of the things where it's not super difficult rocket science or anything, but for a kind of confused tourist walking around holding an expensive video camera, looking conspicuous, not totally convenient how to get from the BART to the MUNI, but it looks like I'm gonna achieve it. So this is where the J line boards. I have to say this is kind of a minimalistic platform, and also like in the San Jose, I'm not quite clear where I scanned my Clipper card, which I promised I'd explain the Clipper card and I didn't. The Clipper card is a contactless card. It's accepted by like 28 different transit agencies in the Bay Area, including of course all the big ones. So it's made this trip really convenient because I haven't had to deal with change, and obviously I don't want to buy transit passes and stuff for all these different agencies. So I've used that on the VTA, on Caltrain, on the BART, and now I'm going to use it on MUNI, I hope. Like I said, it is kind of a not quite clear what's going on here. And here is our train. It's a light rail train. You can see it's articulated and longer than, actually is it even longer than the VTA. Smaller than a Max though. So here the card scanner is on the train as opposed to in San Jose where it was on the platform. And all those things, like pardon me my phrase, not rocket science, but for you know, disheveled traveler, it can be confusing. And we don't, you know, it's also when you're a traveler, you're afraid of getting into trouble, that type of thing. Anyway, this train is going to Jose-Diridon. Right now, not many people on it. Let's see if more people get on it. So we turned off that street here. That was kind of a sharp turn. And now we're going up this steep street here. So this is an example of transit adjusting itself to its streets and not vice versa.
Church 2 in Barcadero Station.
Also how this is kind of almost like a streetcar more than a light rail. Like, I know I keep on comparing to Portland, but nothing in Portland would do anything like this. So right here, this reminds me more of like the Portland streetcar when it's going down Northwest 21st. Only even more so. So the MUNI is going pretty slow, but that's because, you know, we're going through these twisty roads on steep roads, pretty crowded area, so it's not really an area that lends itself to great transit. It is, however, really nice. I can't show too much, you know, just out the window, but a lot of nice architecture to look at. And here, a nice hedge to look at. Kind of hard to show from here, but we're going down and turning at the same time. Yeah, this is not anything I've ever seen on any train system that I've been in other towns. It's charming, it's exciting, but it doesn't make for really efficient transit. But on the other hand, this kind of makes it worth it. We also got a lot busier. Changed from being a quaint little streetcar hopping through 19th century hedges to being like a ultra modern like subway now. I think I've made this point before, but I'm kind of making it again. This is Embarcadero, the end of the line. I'm returning to the light. This kind of reminds me of Santiago. Not anywhere as nice, but kind of reminds me of it. So I dropped a blindfold out of my bag and an attendant told me about it, so I feel bad for saying this isn't as nice as Santiago. The people are nice, it's just the facilities aren't as grand. It's not like an entire shopping mall. This is also where if I would have stayed on the BART, I believe it would have left here. So me saying that train is kind of slow and cumbersome in places, that's because that is meant to be the neighborhood train. If I wanted to get here, I could have gotten here a lot quicker on BART and really, really quicker on Caltrain. But I saw a lot more. And now I'm coming to the light, and there's a couple of things I want to see in San Francisco proper. It's kind of flushed out now. It's 3 p.m. middle of the afternoon. Let's see what's going on in San Francisco. There's been a lot of articles about how San Francisco has been abandoned since the pandemic. Office workers are leaving. So this is what San Francisco looks like after it's been abandoned. So this is downtown San Francisco. It's hard to really explain the scope of what it's like. Friday afternoon, less busy than it used to be. Still, there's a lot going on in San Francisco, more than I can see. And this is focused around transit, specifically trains. So I'm not going to give the entire history of San Francisco, but we are going to see something transit related right there. So that's Salesforce Tower, and right there, Salesforce Transit Center, sponsored by the Salesforce company, not actually the Salesforce Transit Center. And because that's kind of a complicated thing, I'm going to make an entire video just about this, and then I'm going to continue on my way. That's the bridge. That goes to Oakland, and I am going to Oakland. But since that is the bridge, I'm going to be using some lateral thinking about how to get there. Well, I guess I can reveal my plan. I'm at the San Francisco Ferry Terminal building. This ferry is going to Oakland, and it starts boarding in 10 minutes. It takes about 30 or 40 minutes to get there. I have this fast catamaran haul. So I'm looking forward to that because I don't ride boats every day. In fact, the last time I was on a boat was the Buena Vista Ferry in Oregon, across the Willamette River. And while I'm waiting, I have this great view of the waterfront and the Bay Bridge to see. Also, it's called Embarcadero for a reason. I took a little detour when I went over to the Salesforce Transit Center and Park, but basically this is just like 4 blocks walk straight out of Embarcadero, and then you can Embarcadero yourself. You can see over there another ferry is coming in. And there we have the snack bar. Most of the ferry is enclosed, but through there we do have this open deck.
Stairwells. Children must be accompanied and supervised by an adult at all times. Running is not permitted. Smoking is not allowed anywhere on the vessel or gangway at any time.
I don't really have a lot to say about this other than it's awesome. The ferry is moving really quickly. Hopefully not too quickly because I want to enjoy it. I know a lot of people have probably taken longer and more physical sea voyages, but for me a ferry, it's still a boat and it's still pretty magical. I think it takes about 40 minutes to get to Oakland. Although there's a lot of ships out there. On our right, that's Alameda. This is the channel between Alameda and Oakland. Of course, from Embarcadero on the BART, as opposed to on the boat, it would be a pretty short ride on the BART to somewhere in Oakland. But this is something I'm doing because this is the first time I've actually been on a boat in California, strangely enough. So this is basically the scenic route, and I would recommend it if you have the time. It's pretty cheap. I think it was like $5 or something, and it's a nice ride and it's really convenient. So I would recommend it if you have time and you're in the area. So compared to getting on, deboarding was, just this open walkway here. So compared to like the Seattle ferries where you have roll-on, roll-off ferries and you have like gigantic cities, this is actually kind of small scale compared to other places. Compared to some other places, but also compared to most places, there are no ferries, so it's still a pretty big ferry. And so now I'm here in Oakland in Jack London Square. My expertise in navigation got me to my destination, the East Bay. Presumably Jack London Square, which is almost but not quite downtown Oakland. The problem is I have 5 hours actually to get back to Martinez. And I am kind of tired, so on one hand I kind of be bored to just go back to Martinez and hang around. On the other hand, I don't want to be wandering around, and I want to be, it is getting dark, even though it's going to get dark at 6 p.m. today. So I have another hour before it gets dark. So I will do just a little jaunt around here. Then I'm going to go to Oakland, go to Jack London, and I'm going to try to, my plan is to get a ticket on the Capitol Corridor. I'm actually not sure whether Jack London Square is an actual place or whether it's just kind of like a conceptual state of emotional being. I do know this promenade and this marina is pretty awesome. And I live in Corvallis, so sometimes I get to Newport. I don't get to get to a big city marina, big city waterfront very often. So I'm going to enjoy it for a little while. We have a nice place I can walk. I guess this is related to the Jack London part. Makes us think of the palm trees of Alaska. This is apparently the San Francisco Bay Trail. I don't know how far this goes. Maybe I could have walked here from San Jose, about 50 miles, so maybe not. I'm in no hurry. And one thing is when I'm traveling, a lot of times I get nervous. Will I make it? Will I make it? Want to make sure all those connections go. Especially some of them have high latency, like I talked about with the Caltrain and the ferry. But now as it is, it's around 5 p.m. and my Amtrak train does not leave, the Coast Starlight doesn't leave Martinez until 10:30. So even though the Capital Corridor only comes an hour, it takes 40 minutes to get there, I'm still looking at like 3 hours in Martinez, which isn't terrible, but hey, I might as well see something new, right? Well, it's tempting, but to continue further south, see how far this trail goes. But also there's nothing wrong with walking back to the station. I can also stay, walk around just and stay close to the station, so I'm going to do that now. By the way, I have 1 bar on the video, so I also need to recharge my video camera again. And there has to be some type of story here. I think that is the station, and I have to climb and cross. I have to climb this staircase that says Amtrak, cross the stair bridge to get to the station. Should be pretty easy. Sky bridges are always fun. I am a little bit tired from climbing those staircases. That staircase. So I kind of changed my plans. I was going to take the Capital Corridor, but when I went in there, it's actually cheaper and quicker to take the San Joaquin. One of the points of this is I wanted to see how many different types of trains I could take, and so my idea was the Capital Corridor was different than an Amtrak long distance, but the San Joaquin is as well. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the others, and so I just did it. I didn't want to explain my entire adventure to the clerk. She's just like, yeah, you want to do this, and I can't argue. So I'm getting on the San Joaquin in about 10 minutes. So one reason I didn't consider this bus, I didn't know its schedule, it's kind of interesting. I'm going to northward on a southbound bus because it starts in Jack London, and then it goes north to Sacramento, and then it goes south, so it kind of hooks around. And it has like a little bit different schedule, and it's hard to keep track of. The Capital Corridor, for example, includes both Richmond and Berkeley. This train includes Richmond, but not Berkeley. So I don't think it makes a major difference. It'll be interesting to see what it's like. I have not been on a San Joaquin before. On a San Joaquin, as opposed to the Capital Corridor, this is more or less, this looks like the standard setup for a corridor train. Looks like the Amtrak Cascades, for example. So I don't know if this counts. I'll let you decide. So there isn't quite as much to show now. I've gone the San Joaquin, but I'm on an Amtrak route. Not that much different than being on the Coast Starlight. And I'm going through, at dusk, the, industrial part of the East Bay. So, kind of the conclusion, but not quite the conclusion of my trip, and kind of an unexpected conclusion. I was thinking of taking the Capital Corridor. Would have been interesting to see those trains, see how different they were than Caltrain. But also I'm really tired and I don't have anything clever to say right now. There is electricity, so I'm recharging all of this. Back to 2 bars on my video camera. Also, this train was a little bit late, but every minute I waited in Oakland is just a minute I'm not going to have to wait when I get to Martinez. Here's the San Joaquin. That's the first time I've ridden on the San Joaquin. Not like really a life-changing experience, because I've ridden on a lot of trains today. This is pretty much a standard Amtrak experience. The cars were a little bit different. And it only took me about 45 minutes from Jack London to here. That kind of concludes the train travels of the day. One thing about this trip is if I would have known how long things would take, I might have scheduled more time for certain places. Could have spent more time in San Francisco, but as it was okay. And I could probably put some more thoughts into this. I pretty much did what I wanted to do, saw what I wanted to see, even if I could have seen more. And from there, I'm going to segue into my next video.